at 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 26th. We'll have introductions starting on my right. Sean?
Sean Datchler.
Kathleen Baker.
Mike Mitchell.
Bob Burns?
Joyce Gifford.
Dustin Moyes.
Roger Politides.
And Scott Archer staff.
Okay, next is the approval of the minutes from the May 22nd meeting. Have you all had a chance to peruse the minutes? Any changes or corrections called for? Okay, then I guess we need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and seconded, and we approve the minutes for May 22nd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Next item, opportunity for citizen comments on issues and items not on the agenda. We have any comments from the audience tonight? Okay, hearing none, let's go to general business, and we are on 2014 Parks Day event. Just to start our conversation, we gathered down at the Rivercrest Park, looked over the materials that are there, and most are suitable for our next event. And I think Scott took down some notes that he may want to share, the things we need to do to get ready.
Do you want me to go over those?
Why don't you go over those,
Sure.
and then we can have a conversation about what we have to do.
Got it. Let's see. So we talked about, we have some of the signs that were made up from last year. We need to redo those to update them for the location and the time, and those were the signs that we put around in some different places around the community. I think we put those in front of the pool to get some recognition, and then the day of the event we put them around the neighborhood area or whatever, so we'll do some of that. There's a little bit of the information on those boards that we need to update. We've got the water. We've got a whole bunch of the water bottles left for giveaways. We've got the Parks We Love Parks stickers, bumper stickers left that we'll use, and we're going to do the maps and flyers and all kinds of stuff. The trail news that we'll have basically all the information available at the event. And I think at the last meeting we talked about also doing some raffle prize type things. The pool passes, and if there was anything else that I'm forgetting about that you can think of.
Were we going to put a list of our goals for the 2014 year? Was that mentioned someplace? You don't think that would be?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, we'll print those out on the large paper like we did that other stuff and put it up on the display board.
That'd look great.
So we'll have the large display boards that are at the storage there at Rivercrest that we just looked at. We'll, as we get closer to the event, I'll coordinate that with our department staff, and we'll get everything sent over to Wesley Lynn and have everything ready to kind of go. And we might want to see if a few folks might show up a little bit on the early side before the event starts to help kind of put things together. And we talked about the pop-up, the shelter that's got our city Parks and Rec
canopy
insignia on it too. Yeah, the canopy.
What time were we starting this event?
6 o'clock, as I recall. 6 to 8, is that right?
That's what I've got. Yeah.
So we should gather, at least an hour ahead of time, I suppose. Is that enough time, or we need more time than that?
I think that's plenty. I don't see that we'd need more than that. I'll have a lot of it. We'll kind of be ready to go, staged up there,
Okay.
and have everything. We just need to pop up the boards and zip time, and we might even just have our crew do that ahead of time or something. So there probably actually won't even be that much to do, just a little bit.
What
Maybe
time's
just kind of
BCT?
arranging where we want things.
Yeah.
So
What time is
an hour would be, I think, more than plenty.
the food truck arriving?
5:30, wasn't it?
Pardon?
5:30. wasn't it?
Somewhere in that time frame. I need to confirm that. Rochelle was coordinating that, but I think it's around that time. We'll verify that.
So if you want a parking space, come early or
That's
ride your
right.
bike, right?
there you go. Very good. Yep. So, and then I think the other item we had talked about, any other activities we wanted to put together. We were going to talk about the jump houses, and Dustin had
And I-
contact on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I spoke with my client about that, and I sent out kind of a proposal to everybody. I think it was for 2 jump houses, and he would stay on site and manage and run it and everything, and then also use it as a marketing opportunity for himself. And he would, I believe it was $199 was his proposal, which was for his current rates is a pretty good discount. And I'll mention again, he would certainly like the opportunity to get before a large group of people, and is willing to consider other discounts, but wouldn't want to spend the whole afternoon without making too much money. So anyway, that's why I kind of threw it out there, I don't know what our budget looks like for things like this, but
We're not really spending much on the rest of the event at this point anyway, thanks to to your volunteerism, and also we put a lot of the stuff together last year, so there's not really a whole lot else to spend. So I think we'd be okay. It would be within our budget to do that under our recreation programming stuff that we do. It looked like Dustin, it looks like he's donating one of the 2 jump houses for free out of is it kind of the idea that it looks like to me is
right, the
for
discount
the
would
price
be
of 2 he's given us, or for the
Exactly.
price of
For the
one
price
he's
of one, we
given
get
us
2.
No, that's
For
not
the-
a very good deal. The other one. So it
price
looked like he's
the
donating.
price of
one.
2, he's giving us 1. Isn't it great?
No.
No,
definitely not what I
no,
meant.
and I talked to him about it. I highlighted with him the marketing opportunity aspect of it, and like I said, he's really excited about it. He operates mostly out of kind of the west side of town on Beaverton and whatnot, so he likes the idea of getting some exposure here to the east side, and so he came up with the idea of putting up 2 bounce houses and then just charging us for the 1.
Now that covers all the insurance for those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it covers his insurance.
His insurance, that's what, what kind of liability could there be for the city?
Well, we
If a child gets hurt on these things.
yeah,
that's-
we typically when we do these types of things with the vendor, we'll require them to provide us an insurance copy of an insurance waiver, our insurance policy, and then we usually do we have a little personal services contract is kind of what we call it, that they have some things that they have to do and sign off on, and then anything that we do, we're prone to some liability, and we are, obviously the city is insured, and we have
Okay, just,
taken those types of precaution. We do lots of activities and events that have some level of risk to them, and that's part of us doing our business. So,
mostly because of the jump houses that blew away.
yeah, that in
Yeah,
particular, I know what you're
mean-
saying. Yeah, we would want to ensure that we're taking the best precautions we can.
He and I have discussed ad nauseum the wind speed capabilities and when to take them down, when not to put them up, and so on and so forth.
I think it's a great idea. Definitely want to move forward with it.
So if we're budget-wise, we're good. If it's kind of more of just this is your event, so if you want to do this, I can make it work from my end, and that kind of thing.
Let's do it.
I would probably follow up and call. I've got the proposal and I've got that information. I would follow up and do some of the business stuff, on that end of things with them. And
The only
double
questions
check
I
it.
had was on the liability, and that's been answered. I think it would be well received. Kids would have a lot of fun,
Agreed.
and as long as we're covered insurance-wise, liability-wise, it's a great idea. Any other comments on the what do you call those? Jump houses?
Bounce house.
Bounce houses. Okay.
Do we need, because we're spending money, do we need to have a vote on that?
Not necessarily. That's within my budget authority that I've got. Just
within
more of a
budget,
general. That's something you'd like to do. I can take care of the sort of the coordinating and business end of that. If just so long as it looks like there's a consensus to do that, I'm good with that. Works for me.
Let's see those senior citizens in the bounce house.
You go first.
Yeah, sounds like a challenge to me.
Well, we've covered some of, tried to make a list of some of the things that, because I missed your last meeting. We've talked about the favors, water bottles, publications, bumper stickers, the food. I guess we've arranged for a food truck to show up and provide.
Well, that was their
Provide
first,
food?
wasn't it?
Yeah, it's part of the, that was part of the movie, the whole
in the
movie
park.
thing that night, so
Yeah.
it just kind of worked well.
Okay. And Dustin's proposal, we've covered that. What other activities or events are we planning to have?
I still don't know. I didn't get a hold of Adam about a bike rodeo, so that's still a question mark.
I'm very comfortable with, it is what it is right now, more of an informational booth, little opportunity for kids to do something besides the normal playground, and then the movies to follow with some prize giveaways. We talked about pool passes. I'm not sure, were there any other opportunities for giveaways?
That was kind of it, yeah.
Okay.
We can,
I'm comfortable with the event being just that.
Okay. Yeah, we have a 2-hour, kind of a 2-hour. Timeline.
One thing that I forgot to mention that since the last meeting that I have become aware of is that as part of both the park day and the movie night, I think you may be aware we've got a newer concession building there. It's part of the restroom is half the building, and then the other half, the back half, we've got this really nice concession stand building, and it's run by volunteer groups for ball tournaments and different things like that. Well, one of the local clubs that does some of the fundraising stuff there has offered to do their vending out of the concession stand that night. So, popcorn and
Candy bars.
red robes, candy bars, and I think hot dogs. So anyway, there'll be some vending going on out of the concession stand that night too, and then that goes back to a local youth organization, and so that's a nice thing, and that'll add a little bit to the event as well.
Great.
Do we need to talk about assignments? Who's going to do what, or you think that's
I think you did all the work last
necessary?
year. I'll handle a lot of this stuff. It looks like is on me to get the signs done. We've already got some of the things from last year. All the brochures and maps and flyers that we have as information, that all comes from my office, and I'll get that. And I'll be getting the pool passes, making the changes to the stuff that's on the board, the information, and
So we're just going to fly incognito.
that's right. You don't have to do as much as you did last year.
Bob?
Just show up.
Well, since it's not a required event, I'm interested in attending and participating, but I'm curious if, show of hands or if who else is interested in coming. And
Well,
can I assume everybody? Great.
I plan on doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Unless the
perfect.
granddaughter comes.
Oh, yeah, because I thought you had an event you might be out of town for.
That's going to be the following week. So, yeah.
Worked out good.
And is there any need for any additional planning? I guess that on our tour of the parks, we'd have time to talk about anything else we have to do, right?
think so.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Any last minute stuff could come
Last
up
minute
there.
stuff that we have
Yeah.
forgotten about, or
Yeah, that will be, even though we'll be out, on a little bus doing a tour, we can still conduct any other business to
Oh.
talk about last minute things, because
Yeah.
that'll be, about a week away from that park day event or something like that, so, yeah.
it looks like we're getting ready here. Shall we move on to the next item? Willamette Falls Legacy Project, a standing update, and I guess, Scott, that's your,
Sure, so
Your
this is
item?
just, again, this is just your standing update at each meeting to let you know what's going on. We talked about the fact that the property had been sold, that there's new ownership, and the city is continuing to work with the new owners in terms of, from the land use and the planning, the master planning, and all the different aspects. So the city's been engaged with them. The land use process, which is all the master planning that was done and then taking that through the land use process for approval, was supposed to be in progress right now, but because of the ownership situation when it was purchased, that kind of got pushed back a little bit because the city wanted the opportunity to get with the new ownership and make sure that they were on board with what the public master planning process had done. So at any rate, basically the land use process, starting that will be in the next probably couple of weeks or so. The city will work, well, now that it's owned privately by a company, it will actually be their land use application, but the city's working with them to kind of make it match with this master plan concept. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But anyway, the land use stuff will be starting pretty soon, and then obviously we'll be keeping you posted on that. That may be something that'll become a little bit more public in terms of. I imagine there'll be some publicity about that. And then the thing that is, I think, of significance to probably to PrAC in particular that we've talked about is there's the concept of the Riverwalk and the falls access, and that is still very much being explored and worked on. The public agency partners are all continuing to meet and to work towards the goal of creating that the Riverwalk. It would be across PGE's easement, so we're the city and the other public partners are working with PGE to gain that access, and then as well as working with the new owners to obviously try to coordinate that issue with them. But that's still very much a priority, is that Riverwalk access project. And I think we had talked about the potential to use some of our dedicated park funding that we had for some very specific uses that may go to some of that project. So that's all still in the works. So that's kind of what I know up to date today as of this afternoon. So unless you have any questions about that.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the item 5C, our parks tour scheduled for our regular July meeting. And I think there's a mistake on the handout. The handout said August 2nd. I believe that's July 24th, unless there's been a change.
What this is, Bob? Just to clarify, what I did was just printed off this afternoon the agenda from the last time we did that. So that was just an example to use for this discussion.
The date. Sure.
So yes, you're correct about that. That's not the right date on that, but so we did it 2 years ago last.
Yeah.
And I just pulled up. We had created a route last time, so. What that was for is just for you to kind of take a look at as a discussion point. We need to decide a couple things. One is what time we'd like to start. We started at 5 o'clock. You can see on the last one if everybody can make that time work with your schedules or whatever. And if you can't, we can certainly bump it a little bit later. But it takes this tour takes a good 3.5 hours, give or take a little bit. It kind of depends on how many questions you ask me. Depends how many sites we end up picking to go to. How much time we take at the site. Sometimes we'll just do a little drive-by. Sometimes we'll stop, get out and walk around and look at things a little bit. It just all varies. So it's nice to leave the time as much as we can available, so that if you want to go a little bit longer or what have you. But if we finish early, then you get to go home early. So that's okay too. So we need to decide generally about the route. You don't have to necessarily select every single site that you want to visit. This is just a guideline that we've used in the past, but if there are specific sites that aren't on this that you're interested in, please let me know and we can add them to the route. And then as I mentioned too, the other part is we'll provide some dinner for you that night, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll send you some info in advance, probably some choices about what you'd like, and we'll just kind of eat while we drive around. We'll have one of our small buses. It's basically a big van from the Pioneer Center that we've got. We'll probably meet right here in front of City Hall and just hop on that and just kind of eat and talk and drive around and see some things. And again, the idea is one, it's just a good way to sort of get out, and it's nice to do something different than just sit here, but see some places that you either don't normally see or you haven't for a while. Or what I often experience with when we've done these tours is that inevitably there are some places that people, even though you may have been in the community for a while and you know the parks, there's always a couple little hidden gems that you go, oh, didn't even know that we owned that was a park. Because there's some places you might be surprised that are basically just little patches of lawn or a little something, and you go, oh, I didn't know that was a park. So kind of shows you how much we have as an inventory and some of the different types of things we deal with, and some of the reasons also why our maintenance issues are challenging because of the number of staff that we have and all the different things that we take care of, but also just the variety of types of things from very old park sites to new and in between, and also the differing levels of condition that things are in, and why we talk about our deferred maintenance and how difficult it is to keep up with things. So, but anyway,
I would suggest that we be sure to include the 3 parks that we're talking about for the off-leash dog areas. They're probably on here. I haven't scanned it that carefully. And also where the construction
Yeah, they are.
the construction projects have taken place. And even the Clackamas Park, is that on here?
Clackamas
No.
not, and the RV park is not.
And
would you like to add that?
Yeah.
yeah, where we have something going on. And also the end of the Oregon Trail, we're talking about a new stage
Very
going in there, just so we can have a look at the areas that we're going to be doing some major work in.
I agree with both those.
Okay. Is there anything on here that you see that you think, well, we see that so often and we kind of get it, we don't need to spend our time doing that?
I would think that you could strike Wesley Lynn, since we're all going to be there the next week.
It's a good thought.
That's an idea.
We won't need to tour it because we're going to be
We'll be working there.
Is everybody good with
intimately
that?
familiar with it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm good with that.
As long as you show us where the dog area is.
I'd be happy.
All right, I'd be. That's
We'll
all
go
I
on a
need to know.
walkabout.
Okay.
Well, and I think he wrote New Leland property, so I think we want to walk down that
Yeah.
direction anyway.
We had what's now considered our park caretaker's house or park host, whatever. We had just purchased that property not too long before this tour had occurred. That's why it says New Leland Road property. So
One more suggestion. Excuse me, Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we could pass on 1 and 2, couldn't we? I mean, I think we've all
Yeah, I
yeah,
gone by the library and the McLaughlin House a bajillion times.
And the promenade.
Yeah. Don't you think?
I'm good with
It's
that.
okay with me. I'm.
it's your tour. I
I'm
know these
familiar with
places
those
well,
as
so
well.
this isn't for me. So you two tell me what you do or don't want to do. I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'll take,
So those are off.
those are good for me.
I
We
have
know
to-
'em.
I have to
All
admit,
right.
Straight Cemetery is completely new to me.
I didn't know that it existed.
Yeah.
It's out in Park
Is that the one
Place.
down by Home Depot?
Oh, I did.
Yep.
I did
Yeah.
know that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know the
There's a
name.
cemetery.
Yeah. There's a
Yes.
little cemetery that has something like 30 something graves in it that we acquired. The city acquired decades ago, and we have it. It's nobody new will be interred there, but we still maintain it, and it's just one of those things that's kind of like, oh, by the way, this is yet another thing that we do, and it's got some really interesting history. It's actually got a good story, but yeah, it's kind of different.
Is
It's
that
in
the one by
Park Place.
Kaufman Excavation? Yeah. Okay. I didn't know the name.
Down by the end of the
Yeah.
Oregon
Yes.
Trail.
Yeah, kind of.
Is that little wedge park on Division? Is that owned by the city, or is that's privately owned?
No, it is owned by the city, but it's not a park. It's a public works property. I think it's one of those kind of gray area things where there's a lot of open spaces that some are considered public works and some are parks properties. But
What about the properties down by the county buildings where the houses had flooded? Are those the same kind of thing, or are they park? Because I thought a couple of those right by the bridge became parks.
yes,
And
that's
let's do that as we come down from Park Place.
okay. That's
Because there's no name.
It
But I
does-
think there is a bench or a picnic table.
yeah,
back
it's a
there.
park. Yeah, we can definitely add that.
That's coming down from Park Place on the way to Straight Cemetery.
You know where the vet's clinic is?
Yeah.
Across the creek from the vet.
Okay.
Yeah. Right at the end of that little road.
That's a good one because it's tucked in there, and
Oh,
people
okay.
may not even
I
realize.
didn't know there was one in there.
Yeah. And we named it.
We didn't.
It does have a name.
Yeah,
It's
that's
We
William
named
Creek.
it. That's why I remember
I'm
the whole going through the naming process.
So what is the name?
having name recall difficulties. It's the name of the creek that goes through. What's the?
Abernathy?
It's Abernathy.
Is it Abernathy Creek Park?
It's Abernathy Creek.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's just
Okay,
a kind of a
thank
tucked
you.
away, but it's a neat spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty back there.
So
Abernathy
add
Creek
Abernathy
Park.
Creek.
I'll have to
Park.
look that one up.
Okay.
That's why we keep you around, Sean.
Other comments
think I could
on
stump you.
our park tour? Okay, shall we
Well,
move on?
if we think of anything else, we can email them?
Yeah,
to
we
each other
can
and-
do that. Yeah, if there's anything else, and also this is just intended to be a kind of a guide. And once we get out there and say, hey, maybe we can swing by, whatever. That's sort of the idea of leaving some extra time is, or we may decide to as we're out driving around that we don't really need to go to the site that's on the list because everybody know there's some of that. So we just kind of adjust it as we go. This is
Take
just
more time at Filbert Run and at Glen Oak.
Glen Oak. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the notes from what you just gave me, and I'll come up with an updated list for our tour. I'll send that out in advance, and then we can kind of comment on it as we go or whatever.
Very good. Next item, off-leash park sites follow-up. And
Right.
who
Did you
wants to
two bring
address
that up to the city commission? Because I didn't get
Yes.
a chance to watch that yet.
Yes, we did. There wasn't any feedback from any of them in particular, other than comments again that pretty much all of our parks are unofficial off-leash parks as it is. But there really wasn't any comment from any of them as far as what next steps might be or any follow-up questions or anything. We presented it, and there was nodding of heads, and that was about it. So, Scott, I don't know if in the meantime, if there's been any, has it come back up in any discussions?
No, it really hasn't. I think again, I think the commission's just kind of waiting for this committee to, urge that policy forward. And I think the way that we do that is, I think Sean brought it up at the last meeting that we should. Now it's time to get this back on since we've talked to the commission about it. It seemed to me from the presentation that that Bob and Mike gave was there certainly didn't seem to be any opposition. What the next steps would be is just kind of reaffirming that within the committee here, and then basically we would need to take some type of an official action to the commission where they designate those parks as such, and we'd have to be prepared for the management of that. What does that mean? Signage and various issues. But the other thing we talked about was going to the neighborhoods before we go and do this. So I think that's kind of what we need to revisit here since we're back at this, we're going forward thing.
I kind of have two thoughts on this. One, I think we've really gotten mired in the mud on this, and I want to see it move forward. And I don't want to see it continue to get mired in the mud at the expense of waiting for neighborhood association feedback. So while I think that's important, and it might be nice to get that, I don't want that to be the end all if it doesn't happen.
I think, didn't we propose a 1-year evaluation or after a trial period? So what would happen if we went ahead and recommended to the city commission the 3 parks that we've talked about, and that they adopt those with the idea there will be an evaluation after a trial period of not to exceed a year? And
Or
then they
ask-
might want to entertain the idea of going to the neighborhood commission. Let them carry that
Right.
that item.
I like that approach.
Is the city commission asking us to come up with the rules?
They asked us to come up. Yes, they did.
With this whole plan.
Not with rules. They ask for recommended locations.
Recommended locations.
And I should have said we had been asked for one, but they were agreeable. It appeared, and again, nodding of heads, no real comment, but nodding of heads. I explained why we were recommending 3 in terms of spreading it out geographically so that more people could easily take advantage of it, and also spread out the wear and tear. And there was a lot of nodding of heads to both of those points. So I think they were receptive to the idea of 3 locations rather than just 1. But I haven't heard at any point where they want us to come up with rules. Maybe one way to keep it moving forward, to Sean's point, is to put together a little work group and put together the rules and go back to them and say, we really want this to move forward. Here's how we propose it could
These
be
are some
done.
suggested rules that.
Yeah,
That.
right.
Okay.
And what we might be considering as far as signage or monitoring of it or whatever. And I like the idea of making sure they know we were suggesting a 1-year trial.
So back to the rules part. Is that this body's job, or is that park staff to come up with some basic recommendations for policy, and then
Make sure it's covered under the liability.
we
of the
weigh in
city,
on
yeah.
it, and as needed. But I mean, I think I have full faith in Scott and his staff in doing that. That again, I think that's a place we could get mired up in the technicalities, and maybe it's not our best use of our time.
I agree
would be
with
happy
that.
to do that. Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I mean, that's what my job is to do that. But I think the support of PrAC once we do that and putting the stamp on it would be nice. We could bring some stuff because I think there's some not just rules per se, but just sort of general management issues that we're going to be dealing with, enforcement, and what if it creates problem, that I'm going to have to inevitably deal with. So come up with some guidelines or what have you. But I think bringing all that forward to the commission as a package would be nice. And
Exactly
say,
what I was gonna say. Yeah.
we are recommending this, and this is how we're going to do it, and then we've got some rules as far as how we're going to manage that in place. And if the commission wants to talk about that level of detail, we'd be prepared to say this is what we're going to do, and then go forth. And I think the big question out there is if PrAC doesn't want to say let's go to the neighborhood associations first, it'll, like you said, the commission may say, and are you going to go to the neighborhoods where these are at? And we would talk about the fact
Well,
that this has been
I know.
discussed, and it could be up to the commission at that point.
Hillendale meets on July 1st, and I'd be happy to bring it up with them, and that would be the one for Wesley Lynn Park. And the other two neighborhoods are McLaughlin, right, for Barkley, and Park Place.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three main ones affected, and I do think we need to get the neighborhood buy-in.
Is it our place prior to answering the question to the city commission and making the recommendation to them? I think that's where the hang-up is. In other words, I could vote tonight easily on making the recommendation to the city commission, and then having Scott prepare his half, and then at some commission meeting over the next 6 to 7 weeks, have this package be presented, and then have them give direction on next step. Is it implement? Is it go back to the neighborhoods and get approval from the chair? And let the electorate do that.
I don't think it's our role to take the issue to a neighborhood association. I think that's under the role of the city commission. I think we step outside of our role when we do that. I like the idea of us doing our part, which I think is recommending the three that we've recommended. And I would also suggest that we propose an evaluation or a trial period of not to exceed a year, followed by an evaluation. That's what we need to do. The staff would pick it up and develop any follow-through. They'd have to signage and any policies they want to recommend. That goes to the commission, and if they want to hold hearings or go to the neighborhood associations or whatever, that's their business. I could see us going to neighborhood associations and one or two saying, no, we don't want to do that. Then we're back to, then now what do we do here at this level?
Right.
That's my fear.
We're kind of stymied.
I don't want to tank
So-
the whole issue.
We were asked to do something. I think we should follow through and do it. Didn't the mayor come to you
Mm-hmm.
and ask? So I think we follow through with that, and then they take it. That's what I think. What do you think, Scott? Are
Yeah,
we-
no, it's a good
taking
approach.
people
I think
forward?
we're on a good track, and I just want to confirm. So I'm aware of what I want to confirm what your thoughts are here, and make sure I'm on the right track as well. So we've got some timing issues with when PrAC meets and that kind of thing, and how to bring this forward. So in July, you're going to have your park tour. We could take something like this and revisit it while we're doing the tour. Take 5 or 10 or 15 minutes as part of that, and kind of you even pop out at one of the parks and eat a sandwich and talk about this or whatever. We could bring that to that meeting. We typically don't meet in August. That's August and December are the 2 months that PrAC usually does not meet. So hypothetically, until we really have a chance to sit down like this and go over something, it could be until September again. And I don't know that you want to wait that long. I would assume not. So there's that. But anyway, my part of this is basically just kind of coming up with some general rules and then how we're going to address the management, like signage and putting some things in place. I would probably give you some guidelines as to it's going to take us about this long realistically with our work plan. We're right in the middle of our busy season, so it's probably going to be into the fall realistically, timing wise, to implement this. But that gives us a chance to work to that, and some of that kind of stuff. I can bring that back to you probably by the July meeting if you wanted to take a little bit of time then to talk about it.
Yeah, let's look at the July meeting, or even the emails that come out prior to that with kind of the plan. Are we looking at a couple poop bag dispensing stations, some signage? We can talk about it when we go to these parks. And then also, if there's a list of basic rules that are going to be on a sign, let's maybe discuss that and give you kind of the nod.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, unless there's something contentious, I don't think we need to vote on it. And if we do need to vote, we have a quorum. So, or in theory, we should.
Okay.
Just a reminder, we adopted our goals, and it was goal number 3, so we've already taken a position formally in our annual goals. It says, on a trial basis, PrAC supports allowing off-leash dog areas in selected city parks. An evaluation process should accompany this trial. And we adopted that back in 2 or 3 months ago, so we have done that.
Yeah, I think this has been in motion for a while. It's just kind of fine tuning and then having it in a package that I can use to take forward. I would need to figure out what the formal. The commission would probably need to pass a resolution or something along those lines that designates and that puts kind of these new rules into place. We've got the flexibility already within our city code to make park rules or amend park rules as we need to under the city code, and that should work fine. Just a matter of whether the commission, once we bring the whole thing forward, says yay or nay. So.
Okay, it looks like
So I'm going to bring. What I'm hearing is I'm going to bring back. I hope to bring back a list of these issues that I'm committing to try to do here for you to the July meeting, as best we can at that meeting under that format that we're going to be doing. That you could review that, talk about it. Hopefully, I can give you some written stuff in between the meetings or whatever, and then you can basically sign off on it at that meeting if there are any other concerns that are outstanding. And then I could take it from there and work with the commission on getting it done. And I would let you know when it's going to be on the commission agenda, so that should any of you want to show up and be supportive of that and speak to it or just be there or whatever, certainly that wouldn't be a bad thing. So,
okay.
Does that sound good? Am I on track with what you're thinking there?
So I would make a motion that the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee forward to the City Commission for a term of 1 year the test program for off-leash dog park sites to include Barkley, Park Place, and Wesley Lynn Park.
And the trial period of 1 year would start
And when it started.
The trial period will start when it's
When it's
put in
implemented?
place
Okay.
at the park sites. Estimated time now this fall.
A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to do what Sean has proposed. I
The
trust
minutes will
Scott has
reflect that
captured all the
appropriately.
language.
We've got it on video, so I can always go back and re-listen to the
Okay.
motion, so we're good.
All
on
those in
that.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion has carried. Thank you. Okay, we're moving ahead. We'll look for July and more discussion then. Next item is Newell Creek Canyon planning process. Who wants to speak to that?
I can give you a little update on that. This is just, I think you had kind of asked you got a presentation from one of the parks planners at Metro at a recent meeting about the public process and the planning that's going to be going on at the Newell Creek Canyon. And you had asked generally to keep, for me to keep you informed and to potentially keep this as kind of a standing item on the agenda or as needed. So just letting you know that as a follow-up to the process, so there's already been one public meeting, that open house that was held over at the Pioneer Center a few weeks back at this point. And then there's a steering committee being formed, that has been formed. I've been invited to sit on that as Oregon City's Park and Rec Director, and have accepted that. And there's a first steering committee meeting coming up here in I think the second week in July. I've got it on my calendar. So there's a number of I guess it's more of a stakeholder committee, and I'm sitting on that. So I know that PRAC was concerned that there would be representation from the city or from the Parks and Rec end of things here. So what I would ask is that, and that's not necessarily a public meeting, that's just a stakeholders meeting that people are being invited to. If you have input or concerns or thoughts or anything like that you'd like me to consider taking along with me to that meeting, I'd be happy to do so. You can let me know that. And also, I'll just generally keep you informed. But there's going to be, and the planner that was here told you that there were going to be a series of public meetings. The first has already happened. I think there are going to be at least 2 more, and those will be well publicized. And I'll make sure I bump those along to you as well. So you'll be kept apprised of that, and I'll keep you posted just sort of generally on the process that's going on. So.
On that one, I know that Hillendale neighborhood has a representative on that stakeholders
Good.
meeting, and he has let us know that he's not going to be able to attend that meeting, and so possibly myself or William might attend the
Great.
stakeholders meeting on behalf of the Hillendale neighborhood.
Great.
Bob, I just want to say 2 things. I read an article this week, and I'm happy to forward it to the group. I had actually intended to before this meeting. Some of you weren't here and saw some of the presentation about 4 months ago regarding bicycle tourism in Oregon. And this particular site has that opportunity, and it really was intriguing, and the numbers are staggering as to how much money is spent in the local areas. And I read a new one in the Statesman Journal this week that talked about that, so I'll forward that to you. That's the first thing. The second thing, Scott, I think my only comment to you regarding being a stakeholder on that is, and Joyce probably would echo my sentiment here, was that I'm not sure that the Metro planner was as eager on the bicycle side of this as I am, and I think we are. I think the city of Oregon City and bicycle tourism in general, there's a huge opportunity there. And so that was a point that I noticed that he wasn't quite there yet. Now, he was new to Metro, but when it was first presented to us, that was the whole point. And when he came, that was almost lost in the message at first until Joyce brought it up. So to me, that's important.
But they still don't allow dogs on Metro property.
So that's the type of feedback
Right.
I'm looking forward to try to carry, and I would say too that I believe I looked quickly at this stakeholders list, and I think there are there's representation from that community, from the biking community.
Okay.
I know that.
Mr. Myers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he or somebody that works with him or alongside of him are involved in that.
Good.
So I think that interest will be pretty well represented in terms of a strong voice. And
Yeah, the more I keep
But I
reading
hear
about
you.
this,
Mhm.
it's the numbers just don't lie. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
agree with Sean on that.
Anything else on that item?
Thank you, Sean.
Then let's go to other general business. Any other general business to bring up, Scott?
One moment here. I put at your places a proclamation, copy of a proclamation. This is the this will be read by the mayor at the July 2nd City Commission meeting, so next Wednesday. we've done this most every year. Sometimes it slips by us and we forget to do it, but this is basically a national proclamation that's we kind of sort of adjust it to some of our local things, and it's July is Parks and Recreation Month every year, and that's actually designated by Congress as it's kind of nationally recognized. And then National Recreation and Parks Association, our professional parks and rec network, is big on promoting this, and the idea, and it ties in well with the upcoming Parks Day and some of that type of stuff, is that it encourages people to recognize the importance of parks in our local communities, and this proclamation talks about a lot of that, and it encourages people to get out and visit and enjoy our natural areas and our parks and all the good things that we have to offer. So just wanted to make you aware of this, that we do this this proclamation every year, and we participate in the proclaiming Parks and Rec Month every year in July. So.
Is this something that we should attend, or somebody should be here? Or
Not necessarily. I mean, of course, if you want to, you're more than welcome to. And of course, I'll be there and can talk about it if needed. But it's not necessary. I don't think it's. The mayor basically proclamations. The mayor will just read them and then move on to the next item, and So.
All right. Then let's move on to PrAC member reports, and Roger, want to start down your end?
Okay. I have 3 items concerning the Pioneer Community Center. First, there are some facility upgrades happening with a new fire panel and system installation. The old one is at least 20 years old and failing. Second is we are also replacing windows that have failed. Third item is the ballroom floor has some repairs, and we also have ceiling repairs in the service area. I just want to say kudos to the staff and all the volunteers of the community center for really helping things run smoothly.
Very good. Okay, next, Dustin?
I have no report.
Joyce?
Just that I attended that Newell Canyon planning process, and that was well attended. I heard they had good pie there. I couldn't eat any, but a lot of pie was consumed at that meeting. And just get out there and enjoy your parks. I think maybe later, or do I bring this up now, on National Night Out? What day was
First
that?
Tuesday of August.
First Tuesday of August. And are we going to represent parks at National Night Out? Is there going to be anything on that? That would be my only question I wanted to bring up at this point, but we can save that for...
Well, I can talk to that real quickly. We don't typically have per se like a booth or something like that. I've attended many of those events. PrAC has discussed in the past maybe doing something there and having a little information table or something, but I think the Parks Day event has sort of become that thing. So nothing. I think the direct answer is no. We don't do anything officially, but there's.
I was just wondering if the displays could also be at National Night Out, since we have the displays already for the Parks Day event, if those same displays can't be used. Just as something to consider.
In the same location, Joyce, are you thinking?
Well, it's at
Would
Chapin.
have to move them someplace.
Yeah, it'd have to be moved. It's typically at Chapin Park. Is that what you're going
Oh,
to say?
no, it's not
But
at Chapin
it's not
this year.
They're
No,
moving
it's
it.
going to be at Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, they changed it because of the police station thing.
Just
So
something.
potentially, yeah, I can look into that.
Let's talk about that on the July tour.
Anything else?
So,
Okay, Mike.
Nothing for me.
Really, all this world travels, or you have no report?
I haven't been in any parks, our own or any other cities.
Katie?
Nothing for me.
Sean?
Nothing, thank you.
Well, let me get my notes out here. I I'm happy to see the park host back on the job. And I've heard some positive comments about that in the recent weeks. I do my walking in Chapin Park when I get at it, and that's not as regular as it should be. But I've noticed that the new playground apparatus are nearly finished there that Britt Tucker has put in. And I guess we're waiting for something. It's still fenced off, but it's all ready except for the matting, I think, the matting that goes over the concrete.
Yep,
But it's really a nice job that they've done there. I have attended the Neighborhood Association meeting for the Mount Pleasant Rivercrest area. And the Mount Pleasant School keeps coming up. And last week we had, during the meeting, a representative from the police department was there and said that the police department was in discussion with the city, about taking over the premises, and that the question of the park came up. And so I was curious if that playground will become part of our responsibility as PrAC, if that actually happens, where Mount Pleasant School becomes part of the city. And as usual, Scott, only say what you can, but some things you can't talk a whole lot about until they're actually completed. But
Yeah.
is there anything we need to know about that?
There's not anything specific yet. Yeah, and it's been that concept is out there, so it's been discussed publicly. Details are still undecided about a lot of those types of things. The layout of the site, what's going to be kept of the current open space area, and that I'm not sure yet. I'm definitely tuned in, but there's a lot that hasn't been decided. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens. So.
Where's the purchase part of that process?
It's
Has
not
it
not
occurred
done.
or
No.
right there? Or is
No,
it
it's not done yet. It's still being worked on between the two agencies, and it would potentially be coming forward to the commission in the next few meetings, is what I understand. So yeah.
At that same meeting, we had Maureen Cole, the director of the library, was there and gave a nice presentation. And she also mentioned that the park around the library, that they'll be coming to the city, I guess that would mean us, for input in terms of any changes that would be made to that park. So I just thought I'd mention that. And she spoke freely about it, and so they might be looking to us for some input here along the line. The most important thing that I was involved in lately was the meeting with the Oregon City School Board, and Scott, Mayor Neely, and I attended a school board meeting to present an award to Britt Tucker and his students for all the wonderful work that they've done for the city. And the mayor did an excellent job, and I was very surprised at the depth of information that he has about the parks and the work that the construction crew has done. He just knew an awful lot more than I did, frankly. We had an excellent reception, and somebody asked about the amount of savings the city has realized as a result of all these projects. And Britt wasn't really sure, but he estimated that at least $1 million worth of improvements have been made to our parks by the high school construction class. And that's really amazing. That's really, really very, very well done. And my final comment, I attended a workshop on how to conduct public meetings. And so I listened intently, and I'm not sure exactly what I learned, but it was very interesting. Yeah, those are my comments.
We'll vote for you for chair next year then too.
I haven't changed anything, have I?
I was at the same meeting, so I can attest that Bob was there, and he seemed to pay attention. So
I had to.
better be on your P's and Q's. I don't know.
Okay, we are on staff reports. Item 7.
Okay, I'll run through a few things for you that are just updates. The Glen Oak and Filbert Run Parks Master Plan Process Update. We have completed our selection process. I want to acknowledge both Mike and Joyce for your representation at different points of both evaluating the proposals and then Joyce jumping in at the last minute and helping us with the interview process. We also had some staff involved, and then we had citizen representatives. Originally, we had some folks from the Caulfield neighborhood, and they were involved in the initial evaluations. That's where Glen Oak Park is at. Unfortunately, they didn't have a representative that could attend the finalist interviews, but Mr. O'Brien, who's in attendance here tonight, was the representative from the neighborhood that Filbert Run Park is in, and he was involved from beginning to the end of that selection process, and so we thank everybody for your help and participation. And we arrived at the recommendation was that we will enter into an agreement with Lango Hansen Landscape Architects. It's a firm that we've worked with in the past that we're familiar with. We are putting forth a contract with them on next week's commission agenda to be hopefully approved. And then once that's approved, we'll be underway. And we'll be getting, you'll be getting regular updates from me about the process. Obviously, this is something that PRAC will be both well informed about, but also this is one of those areas where PRAC has a key role in the process of helping us to go through this master planning process. It'll be a very public process. There will be lots of information out in the community. We'll directly target the two neighborhoods specifically that those parks are in when we have neighborhood and public types of meetings. Those will be advertised, both kind of direct target and then also generally to the community to hopefully come and participate. We'll have different ways of doing that. And the idea is that we'll arrive at a preferred design for each of the two sites. They'll be treated, though we're doing this under one contract with one consultant, each of the two park sites will be very much its own unique thing, and there'll be lots of very specific things to those two park sites that the neighbors and the community will be taking a look at. So each park will be its own master plan, and it will have its own land use process to follow through adopting. The idea is that we hope that we would be done with, or at least have the preferred plans done by around the end of the calendar year, and then there'll be some land use process to actually go through the adoption phase of that, where you formally adopt that through, and PRAC is one of the check-in points of that. The Planning Commission, and then eventually the City Commission will accept those plans, and then that means we've got an adopted vision for the parks, and then we can try to identify funding and hopefully at some point develop each of those sites and determine the game plan from there. So it should be a fun process. I'm looking forward to that, and again, I'll keep you well informed of that, and there'll be some points along the way where we'll actually come and check in. The consultant will come here before you to present at different points and so forth. So if you have any questions about any of that, certainly let me know. Moving on to the Ermatinger House, I've been keeping you pretty updated on this, so I won't go back through the whole thing. And if there are any questions, especially from the newer members, that you don't have all the information and there's some blank spots there, let me know, and I can come back and fill those in for you at some point. But basically, we are, again, the county, because of our community development block grant funding, which is funding a significant portion of the project, there's some stipulations that they are the agency that actually does the contract, but we still have ultimate control over the design and the implementation. But we are just within the next few weeks going to begin the process of the renovation and the restoration project. So we're just about moving, going to start moving. You'll see contractor moving in and that kind of thing in the near future, and that will probably take, I forget what our end point of that contract is, but it's roughly a few months. But again, about the end of the year is the anticipated completion of that. So we've been working on that. It's been a commission goal for several years, and PRAC has also been involved at least to a certain level, but we've been working on this for several years and And so we're at that point now where we're going to be underway. Any questions? Chapin Park, Bob already mentioned a little bit about the new playground. I just wanted to update you on that. The playground itself has been installed. The high school construction class did the installation with our staff. Saved us a lot of money on the install cost of doing that. Normally when you put in a new playground, now we purchased the equipment. That was in our budget to do a replacement. It's the smaller of the two playgrounds, or it's the top playground. Normally we purchase and then we have to pay a contractor to do the install for us, and the construction class did that, and that saved us several $1,000s. And then, as Bob mentioned, we haven't completed it just yet. You'll still see fencing around that. This will be our first playground where we put in the soft padding instead of the chips. It'll be a new thing for us. Experiment. We're kind of testing this one out and seeing how it goes. The pads, the padding is. We're supposed to be receiving that here in the next few days, and then it's just a matter of timing and getting it installed, and then we'll move the fence and the playground will be reopened. So it'll be it's a nicer, it's a new playground, but also with a different type of surfacing, and so we'll kind of see how that goes. But again, thanks to the construction class, they did that project for us, and they just are wonderful to work with. I wanted to mention briefly our park and cemetery staffing. I think you've been, as a group, at least some of you have asked me on a number of occasions about kind of where we're at with our manager selection process. So again, Larry Potter retired. We kind of went through where we did an interim thing with Denise Kai, which is why I haven't had her attending a lot of these meetings, because she's been working so hard for us the last few months. But we've gone through a selection process, and right now where we're at is, without being able to give you any kind of an official announcement about this, but we've got one of our existing staff persons, John Waverly, is the interim manager for us right now, and that was as of kind of recently. And there'll be something a little bit more permanent about that position announced, but that's all I can really say at this point. But John, for all intents and purposes, is our manager. He'll be attending some meetings. I think he's going to come on our tour in July, on the park tour, so you'll get a chance to meet him and interact with him, and then I would be getting him a little bit more involved in coming to some of the PrAC meetings. And you'll start seeing Denise again. Things are kind of settling back to normal for us a little bit in terms of how we've been sort of stretched. And then we're working on, we've got all kinds of stuff going on with seasonal staffing, and we're really, really busy. This is our big time of the year in the parks. And we're just about as busy as ever and trying to keep up. We would love to do more, but our basic goals are to keep the park safe, clean, and green, and everything beyond that is gravy. So we do our very, very best to at least try to keep them, at that level, and of course we strive for keeping them as nice as we can. People don't realize we basically, including our manager position, we have 6 full-time maintenance staff for 37 parks, plus a few other open spaces that are not parks. And that also includes the cemetery, which we do burials, and we do interments in the mausoleum, and we do lots of different things that people don't even realize. And so we've got a really, really good crew. They're really dedicated and hardworking, and they overachieve and make us look better than our staffing levels really are. So anyway, I'll be filling you in more on that as I've got some more news for you. Summer recreation stuff, we're underway with all of our camps and activities, and the swimming pool is on summer schedule, and our swim lessons, everything is going really well. We're very, very busy. We've got lots of all the things that are in the summer trail news under the recreation activities. Most of those activities are full, and things are going great. We're getting ready to start our summer concerts pretty soon in the month of July, moving to our new site down the hill, and looking forward to seeing how that goes. We've got some really good musical acts lined up this year. I think it's probably going to be our strongest year yet in terms of the level of, we've got some returning acts, and then we've got some new folks coming in, and should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, looking forward to our movies in the park in August, and a lot of good stuff going on right now. I want to mention to you a couple other things. We are working with Clackamas County Arts Alliance, which is the agency that does a lot of the public art stuff for the city and also for the whole county. We are working on a potential public art project at John Storm Park that kind of would be in line with what we've done recently at Clackamas, and we did some neat sculptures, the things that tie back to the river, and looking at kind of connecting that piece, because that's the halfway point, if you will, between Clackamas and the new, well, not that new anymore, but a few years new, the terrace on the Willamette River. So I'll be giving you more information about that. Typically, when we do a new public art piece in a park, we bring that to PRAC to take a look at the concept and kind of give your input and hopefully blessing at some point. We've done that before with some other public art pieces that end up in parks. And then Bob mentioned my last item, which is I was going to give you an update on the park hosts. We've talked about that at a couple of meetings recently. We have all of our sites now filled with park hosts, and except for Wesley Lynn, which is kind of unique because it's a residence versus people that are kind of part-timers and bring their own RV in. And we've got some applications that we're going through and looking at that one. So that one is not filled, but all the other sites are, and we have some really good folks. All of a sudden, we were having trouble recruiting and filling those spots, and then all of a sudden we got an influx of good folks. And I think Bob mentioned some of the good feedback that he'd heard, and we're getting a lot of good feedback. We've got some good people in place now. So that program, it serves our community really well. If you're not familiar, the folks, in exchange for basically a free place to park their RV, they get the utility hookups. They provide some basic services as well as visibility, just being on site and security, and they'll run around and pick up garbage and empty garbage cans and do things like that, change out the paper in the restrooms and so forth. So it's a great program, and I think that's all I've got for you.
Any news on the boat ramp? Is there?
The Clackamas ramp?
Yeah.
We're continuing to move forward. I think I've reported to you on that we received the grant. We were successful in our grant. I think I'd mentioned that at the last meeting. Maybe not. I think it was sort of a tentative. I guess I should confirm that we do know for sure that we've received that grant. What the grant is for is to do the hydrologic study and kind of environmental study of, can we repair the ramp in place with the flows of the river and the current and all those things? Can we repair it where it's at? Should we think about moving it to a different location along the riverfront there, or is this something we need to rethink completely? The Marine Board very much wants us to get that back open. They're supporting us with funding and also with basically administrative support. They've got technical people on staff that we don't have, engineer type folks that help us with those things. So we're working on a solution. We're going to be hiring a consultant with those funds that they've provided us to do that study, and then that report will tell us what our options are, and we'll be talking about that here, and then we'll be seeing where that goes.
Looking forward to that.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I forgot to kind of reaffirm that we did receive that money. So
What's kind of the timeline of that in general? When do you think the analysis will happen, and when
over the summer?
Okay.
And it's not a really lengthy process on the report. It's a pretty quick turnaround. We're in the process of finishing that contract right now, so probably by the next meeting I could tell you the exact date. But it's basically it's just a project through the summer, and I think into the fall we'll have the report and then be able to kind of talk about it from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I guess we're down to anything else to be brought before the group. Our next scheduled meeting will be July 24th. And if I heard right, unless we hear differently, we'll meet at 5 p.m.
Does that work for everybody? Kind of generally? I know there's a couple folks that aren't here that can't answer, but
And where are we going to meet?
we'll just meet right here in
Meet
the
here,
parking lot
here,
at City
5
Hall.
p.m.,
Yeah. And I'll be sending you some info in advance about both the list of parks, and then I'll send you some choices on food that you'll have too. So
Okay.
unless I hear any differently, I'll plan for 5 o'clock. I think that would be
Okay.
the best time to start if we can do that.
If nothing else, then I guess we can stand adjourned at 8, what's that,
11.
8:11 p.m. Thank you all.